Diana has in fact been killed in that car accident.
In a shocking twist, the royal family has dropped a bombshell that could shake centuries-old traditions. Whispers are already swirling around Buckingham Palace as insiders tease a once-in-a-lifetime revelation that nobody saw coming. Could this monumental development rewrite royal protocols and forever alter the course of the monarchy? Join us as we dive into the intrigue surrounding this historic announcement. Princess Diana's Letter and Secrets. A jaw-dropping revelation from Buckingham Palace has left royal watchers reeling. The rediscovery of a letter from Princess Diana herself. Buried for decades and now thrust into the spotlight, it hints at a clandestine secret that could challenge the very pillars of royal tradition. While full details remain obscured, sources claim that this remarkable document touches on Diana's deepest fears, her relentless emotional struggles, and anxieties about powerful figures who might have targeted her. With the royal family's surprise disclosure, people everywhere are once again scrutinizing Diana's life through a brand new lens. Even during her lifetime, Diana's personal letters were known for their raw honesty. Cartons of private notes once kept under lock and key now appear to confirm the intensity of her anguish and her suspicion that she was at risk. In the months before her tragic death, Diana openly worried about being subjected to a staged car crash, maintaining that such an incident might be orchestrated by those threatened by her activism and relentless media presence. Deemed paranoid by some and prophetic by others, these fears echoed through her final days, cutting a stark contrast to her graceful public persona. Shadows of these revelations first surfaced when her trusted butler, Paul Burrell, faced legal obstacles for safeguarding Diana's belongings. Although he was accused of theft, Queen Elizabeth II's intervention clarified that he had, in fact, been entrusted with many of Diana's personal effects, including letters. Some believe that the newly revealed letter may substantiate Diana's dread of sinister plots designed to silence her. It's no wonder that the royal family's recent announcement has ignited a flurry of speculation, inspiring questions about what else might be hidden behind palace walls. Meanwhile, Diana's humanitarian legacy resonates more powerfully than ever. The same woman who braved minefields in Angola and shattered prejudices surrounding HIV/AIDS was, behind the scenes, wrestling with heartbreak, fear, and betrayal. These latest documents suggest that she harbored confidences so sensitive that, if exposed earlier, they could have shaken the monarchy to its foundation. Now, with the royal family's surprising public acknowledgement of this mysterious letter, the world is eager to see if its contents will validate long-swirling conspiracy theories or simply add another tragic layer to Diana's story. Diana and Charles's relationship. In a stunning development, the royal family just announced a shocking discovery linked to Princess Diana, one that has reignited fascination with her complicated marriage to Prince Charles. After years of speculation and rumors, the new information has people revisiting every detail of their relationship, from its fairy tale beginning to the heartbreak that ultimately defined it. Diana Spencer met Charles through her older sister, Lady Sarah Spencer, in the late 1970s. At the time, Charles was fresh from a brief courtship with Sarah, which ended amid candid remarks about not wishing to marry him. Little did anyone suspect that this chance introduction would blossom into one of the most famous romances in royal history. Despite being just 19 when their relationship began, Diana quickly discovered the challenges of loving a man still ensnared by the memory of his ex-girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles. Her private world soon filled with doubts. In one television interview, Charles's response to whether he truly loved Diana, whatever love means, only deepened her unease and sense of insecurity. On July 29, 1981, their wedding at St. Paul's Cathedral dazzled a global audience of over 750 million. Yet beneath the veil of jubilation, Diana sensed an emotional distance between them. She suspected that Camilla lingered in Charles's heart. Over time, these feelings hardened into despair, particularly once they were married, and Diana realized how real that emotional bond remained. The strains within their marriage didn't stay hidden for long. Diana, feeling increasingly lonely and overlooked, shockingly threw herself down the stairs while pregnant, desperate for Charles's attention. His lukewarm response to her distress left her feeling more isolated than ever. That sense of betrayal intensified when Diana came to believe that there were 3 of us in the marriage. Learning to navigate her royal duties offered some respite. Diana's warmth endeared her to millions worldwide, who admired her compassion for the sick and vulnerable. Yet even as she won hearts through her humanitarian work, she battled emotional turmoil behind palace walls. Her BBC Panorama interview in 1995 made it plain she felt alone, overshadowed, and anxious about Camilla's unspoken role in Charles's Charles's life. While the fairy tale ceremony had promised happily ever after, reality brought heartbreak. By 1992, Diana and Charles separated, officially divorcing 4 years later. The public spectacle of their split confirmed the depth of their marital strife. Amid the pressures of royal life, Diana's longing for emotional security proved impossible to fulfill. The wedding of the century. The wedding of the century, Princess Diana and Prince Charles's 1981 nuptials, dazzled an international audience, and now the royal family's astonishing new announcement has once again cast fresh light on that iconic day. Nearly 750 million people across the globe tuned in to watch Diana, a demure 19-year-old, pledge her vows to the heir to the British throne. The broadcast was filled with pageantry and pomp, horse-drawn carriages, gleaming military uniforms, and one of the most memorable wedding gowns ever seen. Even decades later, that billowing ivory silk dress, with its 25-foot train, remains an enduring symbol of fairy tale romance. Yet behind the scenes, Diana privately wrestled with doubts. She had long sensed that Charles's heart belonged elsewhere, that he'd never truly let go of his past with Camilla Parker Bowles. Despite this misgiving, the pressure of royal duty and her own inexperience compelled her to push these fears aside. On the surface, the wedding was a perfect spectacle of Union Jack bunting, trumpets, and adoring crowds. World leaders, celebrities, and aristocrats from around the globe filled St. Paul's Cathedral, a testament to the significance of what the public believed to be a joyous match. The newly released royal documents, however, suggest there was more tension behind the pomp and circumstance than previously known. Insiders hint that letters written by Diana around this time reveal a young bride bracing herself against a wave of uncertainty. Far from the storybook ceremony presented to the world, she felt overshadowed by Charles's lingering affection for Camilla. Rumors now claim that Diana's notes detail apprehension about exactly how welcome she was within palace walls, and the emotional toll she feared that day would take on her. Still, none of these private worries managed to dull Diana's remarkable poise as she walked down the aisle. Her infectious warmth shone through the ceremonial grandeur, earning her instant worldwide admiration. Long after the ceremony concluded, the honeymoon headlines continued to feed the relentless tabloids, all enthralled by the image of a shy kindergarten teacher transformed into a global icon overnight. For many, the wedding of the century stands as a bittersweet memory of what might have been. The stirring orchestras, the sea of well-wishers on London streets, and the hushed awe that accompanied the couple's vows still captivate royal watchers everywhere. Now, as the newly announced revelations rekindle curiosity about the wedding's unspoken drama, observers can't help but wonder whether this epic-making event was destined to foreshadow the stormy years that lay ahead. Struggles in the marriage. A bombshell announcement from the royal family has once again thrown the spotlight on Princess Diana's tumultuous life, particularly the painful struggles of her marriage to Prince Charles. For decades, the public has been mesmerized by their grand wedding and the fairy tale image that followed. Yet beneath the glittering veneer, Diana faced profound emotional battles that shaped her journey and ultimately laid bare the cracks in one of history's most scrutinized unions. From the start, Diana was plagued with insecurities about Charles's ongoing affection for his ex-girlfriend, Camilla Parker Bowles. Even in the early days of their courtship, references to Camilla would hang in the air, leaving Diana feeling dwarfed by her husband's emotional history. The mismatch of their ages, she was 19, he 32, only highlighted a divide in priorities. While she hoped for an affectionate match, Charles seemed conflicted, famously uttering whatever love means when asked if he truly loved Diana. As newlyweds, they momentarily played the roles expected of them, appearing at formal engagements with bright smiles that masked Diana's growing sense of isolation. Behind palace doors, Diana increasingly longed for recognition and reassurance from Charles. This longing peaked when she was pregnant with Prince William, and in a moment of despair, threw herself down the stairs in an attempt to provoke the empathy she felt her husband withheld. Instead of finding the compassion she desperately needed, she encountered a chilling indifference. Over time, Diana's anguish grew. She spoke of feeling like an outsider trapped within ancient protocols and watchful eyes. Her greatest heartbreak, she later confessed in a landmark BBC Panorama interview, was Charles's enduring closeness to Camilla. That searing admission, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," became an iconic snapshot of Diana's struggles. It conveyed not only the pain of perceived betrayal, but the loneliness of a young woman thrust into the global spotlight with few genuine allies. Seeking solace, Diana channeled her energy into humanitarian causes, forging meaningful connections with the public at every turn. Yet even as the world hailed her as the people's princess, she returned each night to a private sphere dominated by tension and suspicion, unable to heal what she saw as a broken bond. Ultimately, these unresolved issues, combined with constant media intrusion, proved insurmountable. In 1992, Diana and Charles announced their separation, finalizing their divorce 4 years later. Now, with this startling new royal family disclosure, the world is eager to learn learn whether Diana left behind fresh insights into those turbulent years of marriage. For so long, her struggles were wrapped in rumors and official narratives. Diana's famous BBC Panorama interview. Princess Diana's 1995 BBC Panorama interview remains one of the most shocking and revealing moments in modern royal history. And now, the royal family's recent bombshell announcement has renewed interest in that explosive broadcast. At the time, it felt like the entire world stopped to hear Diana break her silence on her troubled marriage and emotional battles behind palace doors. She spoke candidly, radiating a mixture of vulnerability and strength that captivated millions of viewers who were unaccustomed to such naked honesty from a member of the royal household. In the interview, Diana addressed her unhappiness, telling the now infamous story of feeling trapped in a marriage overshadowed by her husband's ongoing connection to Camilla Parker Bowles. Her most quoted line, "There were 3 of us in this marriage," instantly etched itself into history. It confirmed lingering suspicions that Prince Charles's affections lay elsewhere, casting Diana as a lonely figure caught in an arrangement that lacked the comfort and stability she had hoped for. Yet what truly stunned the public was Diana's admission of her own struggles, including incidents of self-harm and severe emotional distress. At one point, she recounted throwing herself down the stairs while pregnant, desperate for Charles's attention. The heartbreak in her voice spoke volumes, amplifying the sense that her pleas for empathy had gone largely unheard. Far from the cheerful, confident princess glimpsed in official photographs, Diana emerged as a woman grappling with relentless media pressure, royal protocol, and a profound sense of isolation. Critics were quick to brand her as manipulative or attention-seeking, but her supporters saw a brave soul refusing to be silenced any longer. The interview not only redefined her public image, but also marked a watershed moment for the royal family. No longer confined by centuries of unspoken codes, Diana unapologetically peeled back the curtain. She displayed the raw reality of royal life, not merely a glittering spectacle of tiaras and galas, but also a claustrophobic environment where personal pain too often festered in private shadows. Today, speculation abounds that the royal family's latest startling announcement involves rediscovered commentary or documentation surrounding Diana's panorama revelations. Could there be more details, hidden for decades, that amplify her words about betrayal and heartbreak? This possibility has jolted public curiosity all over again. Echoes of that interview, Diana's luminous eyes, her measured tone, and her stark confessions remain just as resonant now, decades later. Whatever emerges next, that 1995 broadcast will forever be remembered as the moment Diana found her voice and shattered the myth of the unassailable monarchy. Humanitarian efforts. Princess Diana's acts of kindness and courage remain emblematic of a royal figure who chose empathy over tradition, and now, with the royal family's unexpected announcement, her humanitarian efforts are back in the global discourse. Even as she endured personal struggles, feeling overshadowed in her marriage and hounded by relentless press, Diana channeled her pain into caring for the most vulnerable. Her bravery shone through in 1987, when fear and confusion about HIV/AIDS were rampant. Diana famously shook hands with an AIDS patient without gloves, an extraordinary gesture that shattered misconceptions about the virus's transmission. That single act sent a powerful message. Compassion and knowledge could overcome public hysteria. It also aligned her with a marginalized community desperate for understanding and support, demonstrating that real change could be sparked by empathy at the highest levels of society. 10 years later, in 1997, she made global headlines again by walking through an active minefield in Angola to highlight the perils of landmines. Her willingness to face danger in order to champion a critical cause inspired worldwide admiration. This brave move helped spur international efforts toward banning these hidden threats, culminating in the Ottawa Treaty, which outlawed the use of landmines. Now, as the royal family hints at new insights involving Diana, the world is reminded of what made her truly extraordinary. Her compassion transcended palace protocols. Diana's tragic death, a new royal announcement, has reignited interest in one of the most heartbreaking chapters in modern history: the tragic death of Princess Diana. The shock of her passing on August 31, 1997, was felt around the world. Yet it's the circumstances and secrets still emerging all these years later that continue to stir debate. According to fresh details, Diana may have harbored greater fears than the public ever knew, fears that could recast our understanding of what really happened in that fateful tunnel in Paris. On the surface, her fatal car crash appeared to be the ultimate result of a high-speed chase by paparazzi, intent on capturing intimate snapshots as she and her companion, Dodi Fayed, sought a moment of peace away from relentless flashing cameras. Their driver, Henri Paul, was later found to have been intoxicated, and an investigation concluded that a lethal mix of speeding, alcohol, and lack of seatbelt use led to the collision, killing Diana, Dodi, and Henri Paul almost instantly. Only Diana's bodyguard survived, though with serious injuries. The entire world reeled from the news, unified in shock and grief. Yet over the years, whispers of conspiracy conspiracy refused to fade. Diana's former butler, Paul Burrell, would later claim she penned a letter expressing her deep concern that someone might orchestrate a car accident to silence her. Initially dismissed as rumor, this unsettling notion found renewed life in the context of the endless swirl of paparazzi, political tensions, and the oddities surrounding that night's final moments. When Queen Elizabeth II intervened to stop legal charges against Burrell after he was found to be in possession of Diana's belongings, it only added another layer of complexity to her already tragic story. Questions surrounding Diana's death have never quite settled. While official inquiries consistently determined that the crash was an accident, the people's princess had become so beloved and so entwined in the hearts of millions that her death felt almost too cruel to be explained by a simple twist of fate. Could the newly announced revelations shine a brighter light on records or letters from that time? Might they confirm or debunk the theories that powerful forces sought to curb Diana's influence on humanitarian causes and her willingness to speak out? For many, Diana's legacy of compassion, exemplified by her work with HIV/AIDS patients and her courageous stand against landmines, demonstrated a fearless altruism, one that may have garnered as many admirers as critics. She was the vibrant spirit who redefined what it meant to be royal, and in doing so, may have stirred forces beyond her control. Now, with the royal family's startling disclosure, we find ourselves once again pondering the unanswered questions that surround Diana's tragic death, wondering if this time we might finally learn the truth she feared would remain hidden. Paul Burrell's role. Paul Burrell's name has been thrust back into the spotlight with the royal family's latest announcement, prompting renewed interest in his extraordinary connection to Princess Diana. Originally a young footman at Buckingham Palace, Burrell steadily earned the trust of senior royals, eventually becoming Diana's butler and personal assistant. He witnessed her remarkable charitable work, her tension-filled marriage to Prince Charles, and her heart-wrenching struggles with loneliness. Over time, the two formed a bond that far surpassed the conventional role of employee and employer. His devotion did not end with her tragic passing in 1997. Following Diana's death, Burrell emerged as a fervent guardian of her memory, claiming that she had entrusted him with safeguarding personal belongings and letters. This commitment drew him into the harsh glare of media and legal scrutiny when, in 2002, he stood accused of stealing over 30,000 items from her estate. The resulting court case riveted the public's attention and threatened to tarnish his reputation. In a dramatic twist, Queen Elizabeth II confirmed she knew Burrell had been keeping Diana's possessions, and the charges against him were dropped. Burrell's subsequent revelations, however, proved equally explosive. He insisted Diana harbored fears of a staged car crash meant to silence her, sparking lingering questions about the circumstances that led to her fatal accident. Critics dismissed him as an opportunist, profiteering from her life and death through interviews and books. Supporters argued he was fulfilling her wish to share truths she felt would otherwise remain buried. Today, as rumors swirl of newly discovered documents from Diana's final years, Burrell's role is being re-examined. Was he a loyal confidant preserving her legacy, or an eager storyteller capitalizing on her fame? Whatever fresh details may emerge, one fact is undeniable. Paul Burrell had unprecedented access to Diana's inner world, making him central to the ongoing intrigue surrounding her extraordinary life. Conspiracy theories and Diana's fears. Princess Diana's life and untimely death have long been caught in a web of rumors and speculation, and the royal family's latest bombshell announcement has brought those intense debates back to center stage. Many of these theories stem from Diana's own letters, in which she expressed fears that powerful figures would orchestrate a staged car accident to silence her. Although official inquiries blamed her tragic passing in 1997 on speeding, an intoxicated driver, and paparazzi in pursuit, conspiracy theorists point to Diana's personal anxieties as evidence that something more sinister might have been afoot. Paul Burrell, Diana's former butler and close confidant, claimed that she confided these concerns to him privately. According to Burrell, Diana believed her activism on global issues and her willingness to challenge royal protocol could have ruffled powerful feathers. It didn't help that she felt isolated by some members of the royal family and openly struggled with the relentless attention from the press. Burrell's later revelations about a letter in which Diana purportedly warned of a plot to cause a serious car accident reignited the public's fascination with her death. Critics of conspiracy theories argue that the facts point to an unfortunate yet straightforward tragedy. On that fateful night, Diana and Dodi Fayed attempted to slip past the paparazzi by departing from the Ritz Hotel's back entrance. Their driver, Henri Paul, was found to be thrice over the legal alcohol limit and driving at breakneck speed, an unsafe choice that proved deadly. Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was the only survivor, and while some wonder if he might hold keys to a hidden truth, official investigations concluded that the accident was, in fact, caused by reckless driving, nothing more. Yet uncertainty lingers. The intense global mourning that followed Diana's death elevated her to a near mythical status, fueling speculation that fate alone alone could not have taken her life so abruptly. Her humanitarian work, specifically her outspoken involvement in controversial causes such as anti-landmine campaigns, had placed her squarely on the world stage. Some conspiracy theorists believe that these altruistic actions and the influence she began to wield posed a threat to entrenched interests, prompting a plot to remove her. Whether one believes in foul play or in the simpler explanation of a tragic accident, Diana's fears remain a significant chapter in her story. She was vocal in her letters about real concerns for her safety, and her vulnerability in sharing these thoughts with trusted confidants endears her to admirers decades after her passing. With the royal family's recent revelations stirring speculation anew, it's clear that conversations about Diana's life and her lingering apprehensions are far from over. Diana's legacy. Princess Diana's legacy continues to captivate, especially now in light of the royal family's latest announcement hinting at revelations no one expected. She came onto the world stage as a shy teenager, marrying the future king, yet emerged as a transformative force whose compassion and authenticity redefined what it meant to be royal. To millions, she wasn't just a figure in a tiara, she was the people's princess, tirelessly championing causes often overlooked by those in power. Behind the grandeur of the 1981 wedding of the century, Diana's personal struggles foreshadowed her determination to create genuine human connections. Growing up, she had lived a relatively quiet life, but found herself thrust into an archaic system bound by complex rules and centuries-old traditions. Despite her own crises, feeling overshadowed by Prince Charles's attachment to Camilla Parker Bowles and wrestling with bouts of loneliness, Diana channeled her vulnerabilities into empathy for others. This approach led her to groundbreaking humanitarian efforts, such as supporting HIV/AIDS patients at a time when misinformation and fear prevailed. Her famous gesture of shaking hands without gloves broke taboos and inspired a worldwide shift in attitudes. Diana's fearlessness only grew, culminating in her historic walk through an active minefield in Angola in 1997. That courageous act brought a crucial issue to global attention, propelling the movement to ban landmines. Through these public acts of compassion, Diana brought monarchy closer to the people by showing that a royal figure could be warm, relatable, and unafraid of diving into pressing social causes. Tragically, her story ended far too soon on a Paris roadway, leaving behind unanswered questions about who might have sought to undermine her. Even in death, her spirit continues to resonate. The sudden disclosure from the royal family has reignited interest. Might Diana have left behind secrets that deepen our understanding of her passions and fears? Regardless of new revelations, Diana's extraordinary empathy, quick smile, and willingness to stand with the marginalized remain her defining gifts to the world. In many ways, her legacy outshines any lingering intrigue, reminding us that an open heart can inspire sweeping change. Across time and distance, people remember Diana not just for her title, but for how she illuminated social injustices and strove to mend them, proving that even amid royal pomp, it is empathy that truly reigns supreme.
Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
For years, people have wondered what really happened to Princess Diana. Some believed it was just a tragic accident, but others thought there was a secret behind it. Now, something unbelievable has happened. Queen Camilla has been sentenced for Diana's death. How did it come to this? What will happen to the royal family now? The truth has finally come out, and nothing will ever be the same again. How Camilla became a suspect. For years, people have whispered, argued, and even shouted about Camilla's role in Diana's tragic story. Was she really just the other woman? Or was there something more? Let's go back to where it all started. Camilla and Charles go way back, before Diana was even in the picture. They met in the early 1970s and fell in love, but for one reason or another, Charles didn't marry her. Instead, he ended up with Diana, a young, beautiful, and innocent woman who seemed perfect for the role of a princess. But there was a problem. Charles never really got over Camilla. Even after marrying Diana, Charles kept Camilla close. Too close. Diana wasn't stupid. She saw what was happening. Imagine being married to a man who secretly loves someone else. That's what Diana had to live with. And she didn't just stay silent about it. In 1995, she sat down for one of the most famous interviews in history. Looking straight at the camera, she said the words that would be remembered forever. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Boom. Just like that, the world knew the truth. Diana was suffering, and Camilla was the reason. People turned against Camilla instantly. Even after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Camilla was still seen as the villain. When she finally married Charles in 2005, many people refused to accept her. Some still blame her for Diana's pain, and now, with new evidence coming to light, some believe she played a role in Diana's death itself. But how did she go from being a disliked woman to a murder suspect? Let's talk about it. New evidence that sparked investigation. For years, the case of Diana's death was considered closed. The official story was that she died in a tragic car crash in Paris, caused by a drunk driver trying to escape the paparazzi. But was that really all there was to it? Recently, something changed. New documents were leaked. Documents that, according to insiders, were never meant to be seen by the public. These papers hinted at a bigger plot behind Diana's death, something much darker than an accident. But that's not all. Some former royal staff members, who had stayed quiet for decades, finally spoke up. One witness, whose name hasn't been revealed yet for security reasons, claimed that Diana feared for her life before she died. She allegedly told her closest friends that she believed someone was planning to get rid of her. And guess what? She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That's chilling, isn't it? But here's where Camilla comes in. According to these leaked documents and witness accounts, there were people within the royal circle who saw Diana as a problem. She was too popular, too powerful, and, most importantly, she wasn't afraid to speak the truth. This made her dangerous, especially to those who wanted Charles and Camilla to eventually be together without any obstacles. Now think about it. If you were Camilla and you knew your path to becoming queen was being blocked by a woman the whole world adored, how would you feel? Some believe Camilla didn't just wait for fate to remove Diana. She helped make it happen. But is that really true? Why the case was reopened? For years, people who questioned Diana's death were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. But when so many people believe something, can they all be wrong? The pressure to reopen the case had been growing for a long time. With the new evidence coming to light, authorities had no choice but to take another look. The big question was, if Diana's death wasn't an accident, then who was behind it? And if there was a plan to eliminate her, how deep did it go? Investigators started pulling old records, re-examining statements, and questioning people who had stayed silent for years. One thing became clear. There were too many loose ends in Diana's death. Too many strange coincidences. And the more they dug, the more Camilla's name started popping up. At first, many thought this was crazy. Why would Camilla of all people be involved? But then, when the leaked documents suggested that Diana had warned about a plot against her, people started listening. Diana had mentioned a woman close to Charles, who might have had a reason to see her gone. Could she have been talking about Camilla? The legal pressure leading to Camilla's involvement. As investigators gathered more evidence, the royal family stayed silent. They didn't want to comment on rumors. But behind palace walls, something was happening. Lawyers were being called. Meetings were being held. There was a real fear that this case could turn into the biggest royal scandal in history. And when the police officially announced they were looking into Camilla as a person of interest, the world went crazy. Imagine that. A queen being investigated for the murder of another queen. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it was really happening. Camilla, the woman who had spent decades trying to win over the British public, was now at the center of a criminal case. Some sources claim that when she first heard about the investigation, she laughed it off. She thought it was ridiculous. But as days went by and more evidence came out, she stopped laughing. She reportedly became paranoid, avoiding public events and staying behind palace doors as much as possible. And then came the breaking point. One of the former royal staff members who had been close to Diana was brought in for questioning. What they said has not been fully revealed yet, but insiders claim it was something huge, something that directly linked Camilla to the case. Whatever it was enough to push investigators to take the next step. Charges and key accusations. The prosecution wasted no time. They made it clear from the very beginning. They believed Camilla was involved in Diana's death. But how? What proof did they have? First, they talked about motive. Why would Camilla want Diana gone? Well, everyone knows about the love triangle. Diana herself had said it. There were 3 of us in this marriage. Camilla was always there in the background, waiting. But was she just waiting, or did she take matters into her own hands? Then came the real bombshell. The prosecution claimed they had evidence linking Camilla to people who might have had a hand in Diana's accident. They brought up secret phone calls, hidden meetings, and even documents that suggested Camilla knew more than she ever admitted. But here's the real kicker. The prosecution hinted that Camilla may have been working with powerful people with influence, money, and the ability to make things disappear. Could this mean the royal family itself was involved? Was there a hidden network protecting her all these years? The courtroom was silent. People were hanging on to every word. Was Camilla just a woman in love, or was she part of something much darker? Camilla's defense. Then it was time for Camilla's lawyers to speak. They had one job: to convince everyone that Camilla was innocent. But how do you fight against years of rumors, conspiracy theories, and a public that never really liked you in the first place? Camilla sat still, her face pale, as her lawyers argued that she had nothing to do with Diana's death. They said it was absurd. They pointed out that Camilla wasn't even in the country when Diana died. How could she have planned something so big? Then they played the sympathy card. Camilla was a victim too, they said. The public had hated her for years. She had suffered. She had been called names, blamed for ruining Charles and Diana's marriage, and now she was being accused of something even worse. They painted her as a woman who had simply fallen in love with the wrong man at the wrong time. And then came the biggest moment. Did Camilla herself speak? Did she take the stand? Yes, she did. She stood up, hands shaking slightly, and looked straight at the jury. Her voice cracked as she spoke. I did not kill Diana. I had nothing to do with her death. But then came the twist. She didn't stop there. She turned the blame elsewhere. She suggested that if there was a conspiracy, then she wasn't the one pulling the strings. Someone else was. But who? Was she hinting at the royal family? The government? Someone even bigger? People whispered among themselves. What did she mean? Was she telling the truth? Or was she just trying to save herself? Shocking testimonies. And then, the trial took another shocking turn. Witnesses started coming forward. Some of them had never spoken before. Others had been ignored for years. But now they had the world's attention. One former royal staff member claimed they had seen strange meetings between Camilla and people linked to British intelligence. They had overheard conversations about Diana being a problem. A driver who worked for the royal family revealed something even darker. He claimed that the night Diana died, there was already talk inside the palace about what had happened, before the news had even broken. How could they have known so soon? Unless they had expected it? And then came the biggest shock of all. A former security officer, someone who had worked closely with Charles and Camilla, took the stand. He looked nervous, wiping sweat from his forehead. He took a deep breath and then said it. I was told to keep quiet. I was told Diana's accident wasn't an accident. Gasps filled the courtroom. Even Camilla's lawyers looked shaken. Who told him to keep quiet? Why? The judge called for order, but the damage was done. The jury had heard everything. The world had heard everything. Final verdict and sentencing. The courtroom waited. Hours passed. People outside were glued to their screens. What would happen? Would Camilla walk free? Or would this be the day justice was finally served? Then, the jury returned. The room held its breath. The judge asked the foreman to read the verdict. Guilty. The word echoed through the room. Camilla blinked as if she hadn't heard it. Guilty? Number that couldn't be right. The judge began to speak. He talked about the seriousness of the crime, the need for justice, and then finally he gave the sentence. Life in prison. The room exploded. Some people cheered, others gasped. Reporters rushed outside to break the news. Queen Camilla, now just Camilla Parker Bowles again, had been sentenced to life. And then came her reaction. At first, she sat frozen. Her face turned red, her hands clenched into fists. Then, suddenly, she stood up and shouted, "This is a setup! I didn't do anything." She turned to Charles, who was sitting nearby, his face pale and expressionless. "Say something. Tell them." But Charles didn't move. He just stared ahead, like he wasn't really there. Camilla tried again. She begged, she screamed, but no one listened. The guards moved in, grabbing her arms. She fought, but it was no use. They led her away, her voice still echoing through the room. And just like that, it was over. But was it? Because as Camilla was taken out, the questions still remained. Was she really the mastermind? Or was she just a piece in a much bigger game? And if she was, then who was still out there, hiding in the shadows? So, what happens next? Camilla has just been sentenced. The entire world is in shock, and now the big question is, where does she go from here? Camilla's fate. Now, let's be real. Camilla is not the kind of person to just sit back and say, "Oh well, I guess I'll go to prison now." She has spent decades climbing her way to the top. She went from being the most hated woman in Britain to the queen of the country. Do you really think she will give up that easily? Camilla still has powerful friends, expensive lawyers, and, most importantly, King Charles himself. He has spent years defending her, making the public accept her, and trying to erase the memory of Princess Diana. Would he just stand there and let her rot in jail? Absolutely not. So, of course, the first thing Camilla will do is appeal. Her lawyers will argue that the trial was unfair, that the evidence wasn't strong enough, and that she was targeted because of who she is. They might even say that the case was nothing but a conspiracy to bring down the monarchy. But here's the problem. Appeals take time. A long, long time. While the process is happening, Camilla will have to wait. And no, she won't be waiting in her fancy palace. She will be in prison. Well, Camilla won't be thrown into just any regular prison. She won't be sitting in a tiny cell with 10 other women. She is still the queen consort, and whether people like it or not, she has special status. This means she will likely be sent to a high-security prison for VIPs, where she will have her own cell, some level of protection, and probably more comfort than an average prisoner. One possible location is HMP Bronzefield, the UK's most high-profile women's prison. It has housed some of the most dangerous female criminals in Britain, but it also has private cells for high-profile inmates. Camilla would likely have limited contact with other prisoners for safety reasons, but make no mistake, prison is still prison. There are no royal servants, no fancy dinners, no designer dresses, just a small room, a metal bed, and a life completely controlled by prison rules. Can you imagine Camilla waking up to the sound of prison guards, eating simple food off a plastic tray, and having no access to luxury? Would she even be able to survive it? And then there's another question. How will the public react to seeing a queen in prison? Would people feel bad for her? Or would they celebrate, saying justice has finally been served for Diana? The monarchy's future. Now, here's where things take a dark turn for the royal family. Because this isn't just about Camilla. This is about King Charles too. Think about it. His wife has just been convicted for being involved in the death of Princess Diana. His entire reputation is now hanging by a thread. People are furious. The media is going crazy. Protests are breaking out in the streets. And the big question on everyone's mind is, can King Charles stay on the throne after this? For years, there were already people who didn't want Charles to be king. Many believed the throne should have gone straight to Prince William after Queen Elizabeth's death. Charles was never as popular as his mother, and now, with this scandal, his rule is in serious danger. The British monarchy survives on public support. If the people lose faith, the system starts to fall apart. And let's be honest, after this trial, how many people will still support him? The Queen was loved because she stayed away from scandals. Charles, on the other hand, is now right in the middle of one of the biggest royal scandals of all time. Some experts believe that he will try to hold on to the throne, hoping the public will eventually move on. But others think he might be forced to step down, either because of public pressure or even because of a decision made within the royal family itself. And if Charles steps down, who takes over? Prince William. Will this scandal lead to the end of the monarchy? Now, this is the biggest question of them all. Could this be the final nail in the coffin for the British royal family? We have to remember, the monarchy has already been struggling. Younger generations are losing interest. Many people feel like the royal family is outdated, unnecessary, and a waste of taxpayer money. But this could push things over the edge. For decades, people have suspected that Diana's death wasn't an accident. Now, with Camilla's sentencing, many will see this as proof that something dark has always been lurking within the royal family. And when the public loses trust, it's very hard to get it back. Imagine this: millions of people demanding the monarchy be abolished, protests outside Buckingham Palace, governments debating whether to cut off funding to the royals. Could we really see the end of the monarchy in our lifetime? One thing is for sure. After this scandal, the royal family will never be the same again. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Camilla deserves this sentence? Will Charles survive the backlash, or is his reign doomed? And most importantly, do you believe this could be the beginning of the end for the British royal family? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you don't want to miss the next update on this insane royal scandal, subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when I drop a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
The role of public opinion cannot be ignored, as Charles's popularity has fluctuated over the years. Some have suggested that the king may have felt that stepping aside was in the best interest of the monarchy, allowing Prince William and his wife, Catherine, to take on more prominent roles. The abdication of King Charles III has thrown the royal family and the nation into a state of reflection and uncertainty. This decision, rooted in a complex mix of personal, familial, and public considerations, is unprecedented in the modern era. While the monarchy has weathered many storms, this particular event signifies a turning point that may redefine the future of the British royal institution. In the weeks leading up to the abdication, there were subtle signs that all was not well within the royal household. Close observers noted a shift in Charles's public demeanor. His appearances, once marked by a sense of duty and tradition, had become more subdued. Behind the palace walls, the weight of the crown seemed to be taking a toll on him. Although no official statements were made at the time, there were whispers of the king grappling with the demands of his role, compounded by concerns over his health and the increasingly complex political landscape in the UK. Reports have surfaced indicating that King Charles sought counsel from his closest advisors, including senior members of the royal family and trusted confidants. The discussions were said to be intense and fraught with emotion, as Charles weighed the responsibilities of his position against the realities of his personal circumstances. It is believed that he considered all possible outcomes, including the impact his decision would have on the monarchy, his family, and the nation. Ultimately, it seems that the king reached the conclusion that stepping down was the most responsible and dignified course of action. For Queen Consort Camilla, this period has been particularly challenging. Known for her resilience and quiet strength, she has always supported Charles through the ups and downs of public life. However, the prospect of him relinquishing the throne has reportedly shaken her deeply. Camilla's emotional response highlights the personal sacrifice and the human aspect of what is often seen as a purely institutional matter. The tears she has shed reflect not just her concern for Charles, but also the enormous changes they now face as a couple, transitioning from the roles they have both prepared for over many years. The royal family, now faced with the task of navigating this transition, is likely to undergo a period of internal realignment. Prince William, who has been steadily preparing for his future role as king, will now have to accelerate his readiness to assume the throne. William's ascension is expected to bring a new energy and direction to the monarchy, one that aligns with the expectations of a modern, diverse Britain. However, this transition will not be without its challenges. William will need to strike a delicate balance between honoring the traditions of the monarchy and embracing the progressive changes that many believe are necessary for its survival in the 21st century. As the nation processes this seismic shift, reactions have been mixed. There is a sense of sadness and nostalgia among those who have supported King Charles throughout his life, recognizing his dedication to his duties and his efforts to address contemporary issues such as climate change and social inequality. Yet, there is also a sense of cautious optimism as people look to the future with Prince William at the helm. The British public, while often critical of the monarchy, also holds a deep respect for its continuity and the symbolic role it plays in national identity. The coming months will be crucial in determining how this transition is received and what it means for the monarchy's relevance in a rapidly changing world. Internationally, King Charles's abdication has sparked a wide array of responses. Royal families across Europe have expressed their support and solidarity, recognizing the difficult decision Charles had to make. The bustling streets of Brick Lane fell silent for a moment as King Charles III stepped out of his sleek black Range Rover. The monarch, known for his reserved demeanor, was about to embark on an unexpected adventure that would set social media ablaze and capture the world's attention. As King Charles walked into the modest Bangladeshi restaurant, Gram Bangla, nobody expected what was to come next. What happened after King Charles walked into this foreign restaurant, and what did he do? Join us as we explore exactly what happened right after. King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla made an unexpected visit to Gram Bangla, a Bangladeshi restaurant on Brick Lane in East London, known for IBT's many curry houses and cultural diversity. On a February afternoon, the royal couple's arrival surprised both the patrons of the Bangladeshi place and the staff working there. King Charles, dressed in his characteristic suit, created a welcoming and approachable atmosphere that was different from what one would expect from royalty of his status. As he interacted with those in the restaurant, the initial shock of his presence quickly wore off among both diners and employees, turning into excitement among everybody present. What happened next would end up captivating the entire nation. King Charles, known for his reserved demeanor, engaged effortlessly with the restaurant staff and patrons. He exchanged pleasantries with the owner, Shams Uddin, who has been serving the community for over 2 decades. The king's actions at the venue showed a genuine interest in the restaurant's history and cuisine. The highlight of the visit came when the king, in a moment of spontaneity, as he approached the counter, had his eyes light up with curiosity. "What's that you're making?" he inquired, gesturing towards a blender in operation. The young server replied, "It's a mango lassi, Your Majesty." Taking an action that was as unplanned as it was surprising, Charles asked if he could try his hand at making one. The restaurant staff, too stunned to do anything but nod, watched as the King of England rolled up his sleeves and stepped behind the counter. The sight of the monarch performing this everyday task struck a chord with onlookers who captured the moment on their phones. As news of the royal visit spread, social media was quickly flooded with takes and opinions. Videos of King Charles making a mango lassi were being circulated widely, and they were accompanied by popular hashtags. The sight of the king taking part in such a mundane, everyday activity struck a chord with people around the world, as it showed a more personal glimpse of the king than his typical formal appearances would. What began as a brief stop on a tour of East London soon became a viral sensation. The visit to Gram Bangla had somehow revealed a different side of King Charles.
Prince Harry speaking out in a really revealing new interview.
You didn't believe she was dead.
I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of maybe this is all part of a plan. I think she would be sad. I think she'd be looking at it long term, to know that there are certain things that we need to go through to be able to heal the relationship.
Do you remember the popular tragic car crash that happened in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel?
Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
Yes, we're talking about the one that claimed the life of Princess Diana. Do you know the incident has been shrouded in mystery and speculation? Well, not anymore, as the truth has finally been revealed, and it has been all we have been suspecting about. Prince Harry's revelation about his mother, Princess Diana, has stunned the world. In an unexpected move, he confirmed the long-standing theories suggesting her tragic death was not an accident, but an orchestrated inside job.
Shocking allegations about Princess Diana's death. Authorities now reviewing the new and sensational claim that she was actually murdered by the British government.
This admission has sent shockwaves globally, igniting debates and discussions everywhere. Stay with us as we delve into one of the most heart-wrenching events in modern royal history: the impact of Prince Harry's revelation. The British royal family, already under intense scrutiny and criticism for various reasons over the years, is now faced with a new wave of skepticism and distrust, with the public and media frequently asking several questions such as, how far does the involvement of the establishment go, and to what length they would go to protect their interest? The idea that a member of the royal family could be targeted in such a manner by those living within the same circle is deeply unsettling if we're to be unbiased about it, and this act raises ethical and moral questions about the length power can corrupt.
With Prince Harry's tell-all memoir dominating headlines, it's hard not to wonder if the royals can survive the latest scathing attack.
However, Harry's revelation challenges the narrative that has been upheld for decades. The official story had initially provided a sense of closure, although it was a painful one to the millions of people who mourned the late Princess Diana. With Harry's new information, the public is forced to revisit and reassess their understanding of the events. It was a jarring experience, as many had come to terms with the tragedy based on the information that was previously available. Well, that was the case until recent times. Now they are confronted with the possibility that there was a deliberate and malicious intent behind the loss of a figure who was not only a royal icon, but also a humanitarian and a beloved public personality. But wait, there is more to Harry's revelation.
Prince Harry says he held on to hope that Princess Diana was secretly still alive, long after her passing.
Harry's admission didn't just come at the cost of revealing the truth behind Princess Diana. He also used the medium to express concerns about his personal life and the struggles he has been going through within the royal family. Harry is known for his willingness to speak out. Harry has always been seen as a rebel, a person who is unafraid to challenge the status quo, especially his decision to break away from the royal family and relocate to the United States with his wife Meghan Markle was simply a clear indication of his desire to forge his path.
A royal reversal from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They are stepping back from senior roles in the royal family. Harry and Meghan say they will work to become financially independent.
From Harry's revelations, it is evident that his actions were driven not just by personal choice, but also by a deep-seated to uncover and confront the truth about his mother's death. Even though his relationship with the media is complex, Harry is looking to set things right. So what are the revelations about Princess Diana Harry seems to know about? And is this move the preferred option for Harry? Then pay attention if you care to know more. The world's reaction to Prince Harry's revelation has been one of shock and disbelief. The whole world is talking about it. Social media is in a frenzy state, with each user to their own opinion, debates, discussions, and expression of their outrage and sorrow. Princess Diana was loved by everyone, and when the news about her passing in that crash, it sent everyone into a cold state as they mourned her.
As dawn breaks on the day of Princess Diana's funeral, the crowds are already gathering on the streets of London. 20,000 extra policemen and women have been drafted in to monitor the crowds.
Prince Harry's statement could potentially prompt a reinvestigation into Princess Diana's death, and if those responsible are found wanting, the public isn't looking for this case to be taken lightly. We don't care how powerful or influential whoever is responsible for this may be. They can't go unpunished. One user said, Princess Diana was an icon, admired and beloved by millions around the world. Her humanitarian work and compassionate nature endeared her to people far beyond the confines of the British Commonwealth. So the revelation about her death, being an orchestrated act and not an accident, will undoubtedly shock and dismay her global admirers, and can even lead to international calls for justice by countries with close ties to the British monarchy, such as Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. For historians and scholars, Prince Harry's admission opens up new avenues for research and analysis.